The Art of Not Thinking Yourself to Death. Part 1, The Trap We Built in Our Own Heads by Pharaoh B. Some of us are not fighting life. We are fighting ghosts made out of our own thoughts. Have you ever noticed how quiet the world gets the moment your mind decides it wants to be loud? You can be in your car, in the shower, on your couch, halfway through a task you did not want to do in the first place, and suddenly your brain turns into a full committee meeting. A committee you did not schedule, did not invite, did not ask for, yet there it is, arguing, debating, dragging you into the future, digging around in the past, making up possible outcomes that have never existed anywhere except inside that small space between your ears. And you sit there like, who hired all these people? Why is nobody shutting the meeting down? Why is my own mind arguing for limitations I never agreed to? You know this feeling, that moment when you realize your mind has been running a full trial, prosecuting you for crimes you did not commit, presenting evidence that does not exist, and delivering verdicts for futures that will never happen. And the wildest part, you are the judge, the jury, the prosecutor, and the defendant, all at once. You laugh because you recognize it. Overthinking is not just thinking a lot. It is the art of creating realities you do not want, then having real emotional responses to those unreal realities, as if they are happening right now. We are the only species that can make ourselves sick over something that has never happened. I am not saying this from a mountain. I am saying this from inside the same maze. I know how easy it is to get lost in rooms you did not even walk into consciously. So let us talk. Not teacher to student, not guru to seeker, just us. Two humans with an echo of truth between them. What overthinking really is. People say overthinking is overthinking. That is not true. If thinking itself were the problem, philosophers would be in therapy full time, and half the world's scientists would be in padded rooms. Thinking is not the enemy. Untrained thinking is. Overthinking is what happens when your mind is bored, scared, or unled, and it starts throwing spaghetti at the walls of your life to see what sticks. It is your mind trying to feel safe by predicting every possible scenario except the one where things work out. There is a reason for that. Your brain was not designed for happiness. It was designed for survival. Every morning your brain wakes up and quietly asks, where is the threat, not where is the blessing? So overthinking is basically your survival system running on yesterday's pain, today's schedule, and tomorrow's fears all at the same time. If you do not give the mind a direction, it creates a maze, and because you built the walls, you are also the one who has to walk through it. The most common forms of overthinking. You have done at least one of these today. 1. The what-if spiral. What if they are upset? What if I mess up? What if I am not ready? What if I fail? What if I succeed and cannot handle it? Your mind becomes a streaming service with endless episodes of scenarios that never air in real life. 2. The replay button. You had a conversation 3 hours ago. Now you are replaying it like security footage. I should have said this. Why did I laugh like that? Did they mean something by that tone? You cross-examine yourself like you are building a case for a trial nobody else is attending. 3. Future Olympics. Some people do not simply worry. They train for worry, preparing for disasters that have not even been invented, trying to outrun futures that were never headed their way. 4. Emotional fortune-telling. Convincing yourself you already know how everything ends, and for some reason, it is always the worst outcome available. It is like sending your intuition into a dark alley to pick up bad news and bring it back. 5. The subtle hum. This is the one most people never catch. The low background buzz, the small constant worries, the mental rehearsing of conversations, the whisper of, what if, should I, why did? These thoughts are small, but constant. They are not loud enough to shock you, but just steady sufficient to drain you. That quiet hum is what keeps many people from ever being fully present in their own life. You are not your thoughts. Here is a sentence worth remembering. A thought is just a cloud passing through the sky of your mind. You are the sky, not the cloud. Thoughts are suggestions. not commands. Your own mind has said some wild things. Things you would never repeat out loud. That alone proves the mind is not a holy authority. It is a narrator. Narrators can be unreliable. A thought becomes truth only when you agree with it and act like it is true. Your mind is always writing drafts. You are the editor. You decide what gets published in your life, why your brain loves drama. There is something in us that clings to what can go wrong. You can have 10 good moments in a day, one off comment, one strange look, one small problem, and your mind wraps itself around that single thing like plastic around a leftover meal. Why? Because anything that might hurt you gets priority. Your system does not easily distinguish between real danger and imagined danger. It reacts first and asks questions last. So your mind believes it is protecting you by preparing you for everything. But that preparation turns into a prison. When preparation becomes prison, suffering becomes self-made. Overthinking as distorted power. Overthinking is not a sign that you are weak. It is a sign that you are powerful and untrained. To overthink at a high level, you need imagination, mental stamina, emotional sensitivity, intelligence, pattern recognition. Those are not flaws, those are raw gifts. Overthinking is what happens when those gifts do not yet have guidance. An overthinker is a visionary who has not learned how to aim their vision. The mind is a sacred instrument. Left alone, it can also become a trickster. What overthinking costs. Overthinking is expensive. It costs sleep, it costs peace, it costs joy and confidence. It costs decisions and chances. It robs you of the only moment you actually have, the one happening right now. Overthinking tricks you into living everywhere except where your feet are. The embarrassing moment of clarity. There is always that one moment in the middle of a spiral where something inside you finally whispers. None of this is actually happening. You blink, you breathe, you come back to your body. It isn't very comfortable. All that energy spent on futures that do not exist, or past events that cannot touch you anymore. That moment is not failure. It is a doorway. It is the crack in the wall where light gets in. Before you can train the mind, you have to see it. Awareness is the first ritual of freedom. And here is what makes awareness powerful. It does not require you to be perfect. It does not require you never to spiral again. It only requires you to catch yourself once, then again, then again. Each time you notice, you are choosing freedom over automation. Each time you pause, you are choosing presence over panic. That is the practice, not perfection, just noticing. And that alone changes everything. The body's role in overthinking. Overthinking does not stay in your head. The body joins the drama. Shoulders tighten, jaw locks, breath becomes shallow, heart rate jumps, stomach drops. Your body does not know you are running a movie in your head. It treats the movie like reality. Thoughts trigger the body. The body's reaction confirms the thought. Now the mind says, see, we really are in danger. And the loop continues. This is not your fault, it is your wiring. Once you know your wiring, you can begin to work with it instead of being ruled by it. The root, fear of the unknown. Deep under most overthinking is a simple truth. We are afraid of what we cannot control. Overthinking is an attempt to control outcomes with imagination. We try to control pain before it arrives, control rejection before we even show up, control heartbreak before we even love, control failure before we even try. It is fear wearing the mask of protection. Everyone overthinks. You are not damaged for doing this. You are human. People you admire do it too, the calm ones and the loud ones, the ones who seem to have it all together. They all have rooms in their minds where thoughts get too loud and stay too long. The difference between the ones who drown in their thoughts and the ones who learn to surf them is not a better brain, it is better training. Nobody taught you how to use your mind. They just handed it to you and said, figure it out on the way. So you did. You survived, you coped, you overthought. Now you are here, and being here matters. It matters that you recognize the pattern. It matters that you are willing to question what you have always believed about yourself. It matters that instead of just accepting, this is how my mind works, you asked. What if my mind could work differently? That question. That single shift from resignation to curiosity is the crack where the light gets in. That is not small. That is not nothing. That is the beginning of everything. And this first part is not the fix, it is the mirrors. It is the moment you finally see that the storm is not just how you are. It is how your mind has been allowed to run. Part 2 is where that changes. That is where you learn what actually to do in the middle of the spiral, how to interrupt it, how to steady your body, how to talk back to old fear, without losing yourself in the process. Part 3 is what waits beyond that. The place where your mind becomes a tool you can pick up and put down, where thoughts stop dragging you and start serving you, where your peace is not fragile anymore. For now, remember this: you do not need to kill your thoughts. You need to stop letting them raise themselves without supervision. You are not your mind's prisoner. You are its guardian. And this, right here, you noticing the pattern instead of just living inside it, is the first proof that you are already more powerful than the storm you are in. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more. Part 2 coming soon. Pharaoh B.